Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for attending our 8th induction ceremony of our Military Hall of Fame. Needless to say, just by your presence here, you certainly understand that freedom isn't free, and you, the relatives, and the people we are honoring today have brought these freedoms that we so enjoy. With this induction ceremony, and many of you know, it was planned for last year in June, then it was planned for September, and due to COVID, it is now in July of 2021. So needless to say, third time is a charm. Welcome also to the historic First Summit Arena Cambria County War Memorial. As many of you know, it was planned during World War II and finally opened in 1950, and thus this is the 71st year of this historic facility. We're pretty honored today to honor 5 individuals who brought not only fame to Cambria County, but also, more importantly, had a lot to do with these freedoms we talked about. 2 of the individuals, Lieutenant Paul Clausen and Tech Sergeant Mike Capelli, gave their lives fighting for this freedom, one in World War II and one in Korea. Another, Command Sergeant Major Chad Peischer, spent an illustrious career, going through the ranks and rising to the Command Sergeant Major of not only a division, but also a state. Also, we have sonar technician Joseph Harry Rabb, who, a World War II veteran that became the chief physicist for the entire United States Navy. And he is the heart of the nuclear propulsion system that our Navy enjoys today. And also with us from Georgia is a naval veteran himself, but also someone who went through various positions, but became presidential appointee to the Republic of Slovakia. So with that, we're represented by 3 basic towns today, 2 from Naniglo, 1 from Lilly, and 2 from the city of Johnstown. So needless to say, if you want to be anywhere today, Cambria County is the place to be. These 5 new inductees will join the 56 other inductees that we've had since our first induction ceremony back in 2006. And in your program, you'll see the other 56 names and what they are here for. To be very honest with you, to become a member of this Cambria County Military Hall of Fame, there's really strict guidelines, and you'll see that within your program also. I'd like to introduce a few people that's in the audience, if I may, especially to my right. I have State Senator Wayne Lengerhawk, State Representative Jim Rigby, 1 County Commissioner Scott Hunt, Andrea Varabish, who is representing Congressman G.T. Thompson. In the audience is Laureen Bentz, representing Senator Toomey's office. And also, I believe in the audience somewhere is Karen Isaias, who's already a member of this Military Hall of Fame. To start our program, I would ask you to rise. We will have 2 color guards. To the right, or my right, your left, will be VFW Post 155. And to my left, your right, will be Conemaugh Detachment 287 of the Marine Corps League. So with that, they will be bringing in the colors. And if you would remain standing, once they come into their position, Diane DeLisa, to my left, will come up and sing the national anthem. Thank you. Color guards, post.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Diane, and thank you, color guards. If you would remain standing. Reverend Nancy Threadgill, the priest in charge of St. Mark's Episcopal Church, will give us the invocation.
Let us pray. Wondrous and gracious God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the gift of air conditioning. And we thank you for the opportunity to get together and honor these people who have served their country well. Some have even given the ultimate sacrifice. Lord, we thank you for being present with all of those who are in our armed services in the past, now, and in the future. Continue to bless them, continue to protect them, and continue to give us the opportunity to honor them whenever we can. And Lord, we pray this in your name. Amen.
Please take your seats. I would just like to acknowledge that Commissioner Tom Chernisky has also come in. And also, I think to acknowledge that the Nantiglow Council is here. So with that, thank you also. To begin our program, the first inductee will be First Lieutenant Paul Clausen, and he will be inducted by Tom Habercorn. Tom Habercorn is a two-time Southeast Asia veteran. Served in Vietnam. He's also the past president of the state of the Vietnam Veterans of America and the current council president of Chapter 364 of Vietnam Veterans of America. Tom.
Good afternoon. Welcome to all you ladies and gentlemen for coming. We appreciate having you here. Paul E. Clausen, First Lieutenant, Infantry, U.S. Army, Company F, 35th Infantry Regiment, 25th Infantry Division. Date of action, May 21st, 1951. The Distinguished Service Cross is presented to Paul E. Clausen, First Lieutenant Infantry, U.S. Army, for extraordinary heroism in connection with military operations involving conflict with an armed hostile force in the Republic of Korea. First Lieutenant Clausen, while a member of Company F, 35th Infantry Regiment, 25th Infantry Division, distinguished himself by extraordinary heroism in action against the enemy in the vicinity of Seoul, Korea on 21 May 1951. Company F was given the mission of attacking and securing Hill 329, held by a well-entrenched and determined enemy force. As the assaulting elements fought their way up the slope, handicapped by slippery footing caused by an earlier rain, they suddenly came under a heavy volume of small arms and automatic weapons fire that effectively pinned them down. Realizing that the present position was unattainable, Lieutenant Clausen immediately moved to the head of his unit and rallied his men. Leading them in a massed assault against the final objective, he personally killed 3 enemy soldiers that had been holding up their advance. As the attack continued, Lieutenant Clausen observed one of his men fall wounded. Unhesitatingly, he moved through the intense enemy fire, carried the injured man to safety. Returning, he picked up the wounded man's weapon and continued to lead the assault until he was shot and instantly killed by a burst of enemy fire machine gun. Due to Lieutenant Clausen's selfless courage and inspiring leadership, the objective was won shortly after he fell. The extraordinary heroism displayed by Lieutenant Clausen in this action reflected great credit upon himself and is in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service. This was issued under Headquarters, 8th U.S. Army Korea, General Orders Number 630, August 11th, 1951. The award was given posthumously. He was one of 803 Army individuals to receive this award in Korea. His plaque is located in entryway number 2 on the left wall. At this time, we'd invite his family to come and make a statement and to accept the citations from the This is Mrs. D. Katzenstein and her husband Bob. She is a cousin of Lieutenant Paul Clausen.
I was only 15 when Paul was killed, and I'll never forget it because I was at a friend's house staying overnight and was called home. And he was my hero. He was always my hero growing up because he was handsome and he was smart. And then he went to college and got married and was into the service, and we never saw him again. But he's still in our hearts, and he'll always be our hero.
Thank you. For the induction of Command Sergeant Major Horace Chad Peischer, it will be given by John Brown, who is a Vietnam veteran, Air Force veteran, and also the past the past director of the OVR office here at Hiram G. Andrews.
Thanks, Marty. Hi, everybody. I can see you now. Good afternoon. It's an honor to be presenting one of our inductees today, and really happy to see so many friends and family here and so many representatives from the service organizations. It's really great to have people take advantage and be part of these types of ceremonies. We can't thank you enough for coming. To a person, each and every member of this inductee class, while extremely honored to turn off their phone, sorry about that. Boy, I'll tell you what, this has been a day. No water in the restroom, and now my phone goes off because I didn't turn it off. But anyway, the Sergeant Major said I'll get through this, so I'll get through this. To a person, each and every member of, come on. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Each and every member of the inductee class, while extremely honored to be recognized, would say, I was just doing my job. That's exactly what Command Sergeant Major Peischer said to me when I met with him and his lovely wife, Barbara, to go over the presentation and fill in the blanks for what I'd be saying here today. The Sergeant Major is a very humble man and considers himself just an ordinary guy. Let me just say, he's an ordinary man, but he did extraordinary things. He may not see it that way, but his accomplishments and contributions during his distinguished military career speak for themselves. Let me share just a few of the nuts and bolts of the Command Sergeant Major's life and career with you now. Do you have a cell phone, Sergeant Major? Turn it off, please.
I did my free combat.
I hear you. Can't believe I did that. Anyway, Horace Chad Peischer was born in 1949 in Brighton, PA, Beaver County. Graduated from New Brighton High in 1967 and later received a bachelor's degree from Columbus University. Chad was drafted into the U.S. Army in December of 1970, and like virtually every young soldier of that time, fully expected to be sent to Vietnam. But duty called elsewhere. He spent the bulk of his time in the regular Army as a personnel specialist with 3rd Infantry Division in Würzburg, Germany. He actually left the service in August 1972. Chad and Barbara married in 1973 and eventually moved to her hometown of Lilly, PA, where they still reside today. They raised 3 sons and now have 4 grandchildren. Barbara pursued her career as a special education teacher at the Penn Cambria School District, and Chad decided to enlist in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard, signing up in May 1981. Over the next 28 years, Chad served in many capacities in the Guard and also became heavily involved in civilian veteran-related service through 23 plus years membership in the American Legion, where he has served for over 5 years as commander of Post 628 and has just recently been named 20th District Commander of the Legion. He is also an active member of several other military service organizations. Barbara is here with us today, as are 2 of the Peischer's 3 sons, Chad and Ryan. Mike couldn't be with us, but he's here with us, I'm sure, in spirit. So glad you guys could join us. It's so important to see you here. A plaque for each of the inductees has been placed along the concourse behind me, and many of you may have already read them. The Sergeant Major's plaque reads, Command Sergeant Major Horace Chad Peischer, a soldier's soldier, rising from squad leader through platoon sergeant and first sergeant to Command Sergeant Major, battalion, brigade, division, and state level. Command Sergeant Major assignments included the 28th Infantry Division in 1998, Task Force Eagle to Bosnia in 2002, and a side note here, son Ryan was actually deployed with his dad in Bosnia in 2002. Thanks for your service, gentlemen. The plaque goes on to read, Pennsylvania's Acting Command Sergeant Major in 2003-2004, enlisted advisor for I Corps in 2004, and the 2nd Brigade in Iraq in 2005-2006. Command Sergeant Major Peischer is a graduate of the U.S. Army Sergeants Major Academy. His awards include 2 Legion of Merit Awards, Bronze Star, Meritorious Service Medal with 4 Oak Leaf Clusters, the Army Commendation Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, the Army Achievement Medal, the Army Good Conduct Medal, the Army Reserve Component Achievement Medal, the National Defense Service Medal with 2 Bronze Service Stars, the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal, the Iraq Campaign Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Medal, the Armed Forces Reserve Medal, with bronze hourglass and M device and numeral 2. The NCO Professional Development Ribbon with numeral 4. The Army Service Ribbon, the Overseas Service Ribbon, the Army Reserve Component Overseas Training Ribbon with numeral 4, the NATO Medal, Yugoslavia, the Combat Infantry Badge, and various other state awards. That's a couple of medals, isn't it, folks? We call that salad. Sergeant Major and every last one of them. Clearly, the Sergeant Major's rise through the ranks has been impressive. I believe his success was a classic case of the right person serving at the right time. Every good commander turns to their top NCOs to get things done. And Chad Peiser consistently became the reliable go-to guy. His talents were recognized and his obvious abilities put to their best use. Let me share one quick story of why I say Chad Peiser did extraordinary things. Chad shared a conversation with me he'd had with a Korean War veteran prior to his Iraq deployment. He was encouraged by this vet to watch the film We Were Soldiers, starring Mel Gibson as Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore and Sam Elliott as the tough-as-nails Sergeant Major Basil Plumley. The movie depicts the Battle of Le Drang in November of 1965, the first major engagement with regular North Vietnamese forces in the war, and how those two main characters dealt with the situation. Chad told me that the film left him with two strong reminders. One, to always enforce the standard, which translates into assuring all things military are done by the book, maintaining morale and discipline, getting troops properly trained, equipped, and prepared to do battle at the highest standard will ultimately save lives. And two, the true meaning of leaving no one behind. Understanding the importance to families that they be appropriately notified when any warrior falls in battle. If any of you have seen that movie, you'll know exactly what that means. During his time in Iraq, the Sergeant Major made certain he provided a handwritten personal note to every fallen warrior's family. When I visited Chad and Barb at their home, I noticed a framed photo of the fallen warrior memorial of the 2nd Brigade Combat Team 28th Infantry Division, which is now on display at Fort Indiantown Gap. This memorial displays the dog tags of all 82 warriors who died during or as a result of deployment in Iraq. I later learned the Sergeant Major was instrumental in the initial development, approval, and construction of that memorial by troops themselves in country, and later worked hard to have it brought here and reconstructed. Well done, Sergeant Major. You left no one behind. I would like to personally thank the Sergeant Major for his service, but before I ask him to take the podium, I'm going to go off, and you might tell by my personality, I would go off text a little bit. Ask everyone to please stand. We're here at the Cambria County War Memorial, and let's take advantage of that. I'm sure the Sergeant Major will approve. Could we just have a moment of silence for those 82 warriors? Thank you all so much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to present that ordinary man who did extraordinary things, Command Sergeant Major Chad Peiser.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great day to be a soldier. Every day was a great day to be a soldier. To the Veterans Committee, John, for your kind introduction. To all the elected officials, thank you for being here. Fellow inductees, congratulations to you and your family. It is truly an honor to be part of this group with you. I'd like to introduce members of my family. My mother-in-law, Stella Katishin, whose husband, Mike, World War II veteran. my sister-in-law, Michelle Proctor, and her husband, Jim, and our uncle, Emil Compagna, and his wife, Cecilia. To my sons, Chet Eric and his partner, Stephen, and Ryan and his wife, Stephanie, with our grandchildren, Rachel and Zachary. Unfortunately, as John mentioned, Michael and his family could not be here, his wife, Michelle, and our other two grandchildren, Avery and Olivia. And finally, to my lovely bride of 48 years, Barb. To my fellow soldiers that are here, who I've had the honor to serve with, but more importantly, I now call friends, thank you for being here. You are my Hall of Fame. You're my heroes. I also honor to have my Legion family here, West Section and District officers, and especially members of Post 628, who have supported me these last 4, starting my 5th year as their commander, and Local 1340 of the 40 and 8. And I also want to especially thank some other personal friends who have asked to be here. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm humbled and honored to be here to receive this recognition for my over 30 years of service to our nation. I have to admit to you that this has been the most difficult speech I've had to write, and I struggled with it until this past Saturday. While mowing the grass, I finally figured it out. Why I was having so much trouble. You see, it's the first time I ever had to write about myself. Once I stood it, it was clear to me that why I'm here today is what I've always said. John has already told you. It is very humbling. It is a great honor, but all I did was my job. What was doing my job? Early in my career, I learned from others 4 principles in leadership that would help me stay the course during my career. Some of these you may have heard just recently. They were: be firm, enforce the Army standards. Enforcing the standards instilled the character and self-discipline in your soldiers and unit to fight and win on the battlefield. Be fair, equal reward, equal punishment. Be consistent. Your soldiers need to know who's going to come into work that day. And finally, care. It in its own way may be the most important one. Show that you do care. They may not think so at that time, but someday they'll realize you did care. So while trying to follow these principles, it became apparent that officers and senior non-commissioned officers saw something in me that I never saw myself. How else do you explain going from a platoon sergeant to a brigade level command sergeant major in just 38 months? On active duty, they call that fast tracking. But even on active duty, I'm not sure that there are very many who can say that they got there that fast. At that time in the National Guard, I think those who are here would agree with me that it was more like supersonic speed. The only explanation is that I just did my job. They say in life there are events that change your life like nothing else. 4 years later, after becoming the brigade sergeant major, this simple white piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, with less than 80 words on it, changed my career and my personal life that still to this day, my family and I benefit from. This piece of paper says the following: 30 November 1998, Memorandum 4, all commanders, 28th Infantry Division. Subject: selection announcement of Command Sergeant Major, 28th Infantry Division. The commanding general was pleased to make the announcement of the appointment of Command Sergeant Major Horace C. Peischer as the new Command Sergeant Major for the 28th Infantry Division. Command Sergeant Major's previous assignment was the Command Sergeant Major of the 56th Brigade, and the rest is the standard signature block. Here's a small example of what it has done for me. It has allowed me to meet 35 4-star generals. There are way too many 3, 2, and 1-star generals to even try to count, plus all their sergeant majors. I had the opportunity to meet senior leadership of many of the foreign nations' military we were serving with at any given time. I met every living sergeant major of the Army up to Sergeant Major Army Daly, who I met a couple of years ago at our annual Boalsburg ceremony where he was the guest speaker. The most important one of those was Sergeant Major Kidd, who signed my certificate of appointment as a Command Sergeant Major in the Army. I've met thousands of other NCOs and, more importantly, soldiers who have faithfully served your nation. I could go on and on about all those great leaders and soldiers that I had the honor to serve with and to meet, because Major General Walter Pulaski gave me, this little guy from Lilly, the opportunity of a lifetime, because I just did my job. Last week, Dave Souter from the Tribune Democrat called to ask me some questions for the article he wrote in this past Saturday's edition. If I remember right, one of his questions was, is there anything you wanted to say to let people know about you, about who you are? So I'll close with one story of who I was and who I tried to be every day as a leader, and who I still try to be today. While serving at 1st Corps, Fort Lewis, Washington, in the G3 exercise section, there was a soldier in the training section across the hall who was transferred to Fort Lewis from Fort Drum because his daughter had health issues that were treated by the Army doctors at the Madigan Hospital on Fort Lewis. One morning, as my co-worker and I were doing our physical fitness training in the gym, that soldier and his fellow soldiers had to come into the gym to finish their training because, go figure, it was raining in the Northwest. When he approached us, I immediately saw that his reflective belt, and by the way, at that time, you did nothing in the Army without a reflective belt. But his belt was dirty, the snap was broke, so he had it tied in a knot. My co-worker began to grill him on how he needed to get a new one. The soldier's response was, "Yes, Sergeant, I know, but I only have 95 cents till payday." In the Army, you got paid on the 1st and 15th of the month, and doing a quick math check, it was apparent that there was 10 days before his next payday. Later that morning, in the office, my co-worker came to ask me where he wanted to go for lunch. I informed him that I had some business to take care of and that I'd see him in the office after lunch. I left the office, drove to the bank on post, took money out of the ATM. I then went to clothing sales and purchased a new reflective belt. This one was high speed. It had the little plastic pocket where you could put your ID card in. It worked perfect for putting the money in. After everyone was back from lunch, I went to the soldier supervisor to ask if I could speak to him for a minute. The soldier came to my office. I had him take a seat and said to him that I could not help but overhear the conversation this morning. I asked him to explain to me why he only had 95 cents till payday. He explained to me of the many issues that he had when transferring from Fort Drum to Fort Lewis. It was one of those, if it wasn't for bad luck, he absolutely had none. I asked him if he thought about trying to get a part-time job on the base, since I knew that there were opportunities there for soldiers. He stated that his supervisor was to get him an application to stock shelves at the commissary in the evening, but he had forgotten to get it the last couple of times he worked. I said, "Got it." Then I asked if his wife worked. He informed me that his wife had been hired by a nursing home just off the base where he could walk to work. However, her LPN license was from California, and to transfer to Washington, they needed X amount of dollars. And for Washington to file it, they needed X amount of dollars, and they didn't have it. Well, I gave him another, okay, got it. I then opened my desk drawer, took out the reflective belt, walked over to him. I stated to him, "This is not a loan. This is a pass it on someday when you can do it to another soldier." I told him this was between him and I. No one needs to know about it. But more importantly, if something turns up between now and payday, you're to come and see me. Before he could say anything, I told him to go back to work before his supervisor thought I was having him goof off. I then called in his supervisor and in my kindler, gentler Sergeant Major voice, recommended to him that he make sure that he has an application for that soldier tomorrow morning. He assured me he would. That night, when I got back to my apartment, I called Barb and explained to her that she would see a check written to this soldier for a certain amount. Needless to say, she was very supportive of what I was doing. Next morning, I called the soldier in, and to my surprise, his supervisor did have his application. I then gave the soldier a check with the amount needed to get his wife's license transferred. As the soldier was leaving, he stopped and said to me how appreciative he was because I was the only person to ever help. I am a simple soldier by doing his job one soldier at a time. And it has been an opportunity of a lifetime. And today, I'm honored to be inducted and humbled by your selection for this induction. I want to thank all the Veterans Committees, all the members of the committee, and each and every one of you that are here today for honoring all of us with your presence. God bless each of you, and may God continue to bless our nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chad. Our next inductee will be Tech Sergeant Michael Capelli. He will be inducted by Vietnam veteran, Air Force veteran, Marlon Plymouth, who is also the secretary of the local Vietnam Veterans of America. And ironically, he is a Chinese linguist, so hopefully he doesn't do this in Chinese.
First of all, as everyone has said, welcome everyone. I'm honored to be here and honored to have this opportunity to do the induction for Mike Capelli. I'll tell you some things at the end, but I've had an opportunity that has been a great honor to meet with Charlie and Joe and Dave Cavallo and his family, and learning a lot about Mike Capelli and his service. John, I do have my phone turned off, and we'll have an Air Force training session on cell phones after the induction. Headquarters, 45th Infantry Division, APO 45, AG 200.6, 20 July 1944. Subject, Award of Silver Star Medal to Sergeant Mike Capelli, Infantry. Under the provisions of Army Regulations 600-45 as amended, a Silver Star Medal is awarded to the following individual: Mike Capelli, Infantry, Sergeant, Company I, Star Infantry Regiment. They didn't want to disclose it was 180th Regiment at that time. For gallantry in action, 26 May 1944, near Aprilio, Italy. Please take note of that date. It comes up again later on. When during an attack against strongly fortified enemy positions, the advance of his squad was held up by grazing fire from a number of well-entrenched machine guns. Sergeant Capelli ordered his squad to take cover and crawled within 20 yards of a machine gun nest. Then he rose and attacked, killing the 4 members of the machine gun crew. By eliminating this enemy position, Sergeant Capelli removed a major obstacle to the successful advance of his squad. Sergeant Capelli's gallantry and determination reflect the high traditions of the Army of the United States. Entered military service from Nantiglow, Pennsylvania. Signed W.W. Eagles, Major General, U.S. Army Commanding. At the bottom of this is a little note, handwritten, that says, This is me, your brother. The Silver Star Medal is the third highest military combat decoration that can be awarded to a member of the United States Armed Forces. It is awarded for gallantry in action. Actions that merit the Silver Star must be of such a high degree that they are above those required for all other combat decorations, but do not merit award of the Medal of Honor or a Service Cross. Receipt of one Silver Star is rare. To receive two is exceptional. The citation that I just read was for the Silver Star awarded to Mike Capelli for gallantry on 26 May 1944. In fact, we're going to learn that Mike Capelli earned 2 Silver Stars in 2 days for similar acts of gallantry, valor, and as you will hear in just a few moments. The Bronze Star Medal is one level below the Silver Star and is also presented for valor in battle for either heroic achievement, heroic service, meritorious achievement, or meritorious service in a combat zone. The Purple Heart is a United States military decoration awarded in the name of the President to those wounded or killed while serving with the U.S. military on or after April 5th, 1917. With its forerunner, the Badge of Military Merit, which took the form of a heart made of purple cloth, the Purple Heart is the oldest military award still given to U.S. military members. In the words of the newspaper article on the wall above us, uncommon valor was a common virtue. These words aptly describe the actions of Mike Capelli, who earned 2 Silver Star medals, 1 Bronze Star Medal for his bravery and leadership under fire, and 3 Purple Hearts for wounds received while in battle. And I hope that Representative Thompson's protege is paying attention here, because I think you're going to hear that Mike Capelli actually should have a 4th Purple Heart. And I think that that has to come from Mr. Thompson's office to request that he should have a posthumous Purple Heart for his kill in action. Tech Sergeant Capelli is one of our inductees into the Cambria County War Memorial Military Hall of Fame. Mike Capelli was born May 15th, 1918, to Battista Capelli, who with his wife Saria emigrated from Italy in 1913. Mike was the 5th of 7 children born to the couple while in the United States. He was a Nantiglow resident until the age of 24, when he enlisted in the U.S. Army. Mike, whose nickname was Shag, was built like a wrestler, a great hunter of deer, and a very good shot, according to his brother Angelino, whose nickname was Dolly. And I'll let some of the family explain where that nickname came from. Mike had 2 sons, Joseph J. Lesniak of Culver, who's with us today, and Thomas, who has since passed away. Mike was inducted into the Army, U.S. Army, April 5th, 1942. He was home the next year on leave when Joe, who was 5 at the time, recalls that his father, Mike, left for the Army the next day in 1943. Joe never saw his father again. Mike went on to fight in Europe for the next 3 years, earning 3 Valor Devices and 3 Purple Hearts. In a letter to everybody sent to his sister May, Mike indicates he was always saying, "I'm coming home and coming home, but I haven't gotten there yet." He goes on to ask about his dog Jack and lets someone know that they must clean his guns and his fishing gear. "I will be back to use it again." The story of the 180th Regiment by George Fisher, published in 1947, documents some of the actions of Mike, the men of Company I, and the 45th Infantry Division during their tours in Europe, and their participation in battles at Anzio, Sicily, Wildenguth, France, among others. The 180th was originally formed as an Army National Guard cavalry unit in Oklahoma in 1890. The 45th Division Thunderbirds was organized in 1924 of National Guard units from Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. And I just mentioned to one of the family members a little while ago, I'm not sure how a bunch of Pennsylvania fellows ended up in that particular regiment, but they did. The family has contacted the National Personnel Records Center, but was informed that Mike's records were possibly destroyed in the NPRC records fire of July 12, 1973. We do know something of Mike's military gallantry. From Headquarters 180th Infantry, General Orders Number 13, dated 23 April 1944. Under the provisions of the War Department, Circular Number 269, 27 October 1943. The following named and listed men, infantry of the organization indicated, are hereby awarded the Combat Infantryman Badge for exemplary conduct in action against the enemy. Sergeant Mike Capelli, Company I, 180th Infantry, by order of Colonel Robert L. Delaney. And an aside, from the account of the 180th by George Fisher, on January 7th, 1944, our great leader, Colonel Robert Delaney, was transferred from the 45th to the 44th Division as an assistant division commander, where he would soon be promoted to brigadier general. While everyone was happy for his good fortune at securing an assignment that would give him this promotion, they regretted losing him greatly. The Purple Heart with bronze oak leaf cluster and then another Purple Heart means that Sergeant Capelli was wounded 3 times in the performance of his duty and his uncommon valor in defense of the freedoms that we all enjoy. As I mentioned earlier, I believe as you will hear from these reports, Mike should have a 4th Purple Heart that would have been awarded posthumously when he was struck down by German machine pistols at the Battle of Willenguth, France. From military records and local newspaper reports, we've learned that Mike was first wounded at Salerno in November 1943, when he was actually even mistakenly listed as killed in action. However, Mike turned up to duty with his platoon and was later wounded again in action during the invasion of southern France on August the 15th, 1944. Headquarters, 52nd Station Hospital, APO 376 U.S. Army, General Orders Number 25, from 22 August 1944. The award of the Bronze Oak Leaf Cluster for the Purple Heart. Under the provisions of Army Regulation 600-45, a Bronze Oak Leaf Cluster is awarded in addition to the Purple Heart previously awarded to the following named person: Mike Capelli, Staff Sergeant, Company I, 180th Infantry, for wounds received in action on 15 August 1944 near Saint-Pierre, France. That same order awards the Bronze Oak Leaf Cluster for the Purple Heart to 5 fellow soldiers from the 180th Regiment, including 3 from Pennsylvania, who were wounded in that same area on the 15th or 16th of August. The same general order goes on to list 8 men from the 180th receiving their first Purple Heart for injuries sustained in that battle, including, again, 3 more from Pennsylvania. On October the 20th, 1944, also in France, Mike Capelli was wounded for the 3rd time and later received his 3rd Purple Heart. Thanks to the diary of Mike's friend and fellow soldier, James Nichols of Franklin, Ohio, of the 180th Regiment, we know a little bit about Mike's wound in October. On Tuesday, October 15th, 1944, Nichols writes, "Landed in France. I hit the beach on the 3rd wave. No fight until we hit the high ground. Mike Capelli was hit in the thigh." This would have been his 3rd wound, noted as October the 20th, 1944. Nichols goes on to write that in that same battle, the platoon commander, Lieutenant Harrison, was killed and Conrad sprained an ankle. When Mike sent his first Purple Heart and Bronze Oak Leaf Cluster home to his family, he included the following note: "This is what I got for being wounded, but I'm as good as when I started, if not better. The cross is a souvenir from Rome. Brother Mike, 6/16/44. Nephew Charles Merlot recalls that Mike was being home on leave when Charlie was about 4 or 5 years old. So this would probably have been his Purple Heart for battle injuries. Possibly, as Charlie recalls Mike on crutches, this may have been the third wound when Mike was shot in the thigh, as noted by Nichols in October of '44. But the invincible, seemingly indestructible, Mike again returned to duty before January 1945. Mike exhibited outstanding leadership and military skills in all his battles. As stated in the citation for his second Silver Star, Mike always led his men into battle. He never sent his men to battle without being in the front and often at his own peril. I'm going to show you, for those of you who may not be familiar, this is what the Silver Star looks like. The oak leaf cluster is this little piece on the ribbon. It's attached to the ribbon. His Purple Heart over there, one of his Purple Hearts also has that oak leaf cluster. I show you that because sometimes civilians don't realize what the oak leaf cluster looks like, where it comes from, and that's how it's attached. His first Silver Star was awarded for his gallantry on 26 May 1944 near Aprilio when he was a sergeant. That citation, which he had sent home to the family, is what I read at the opening. Similar gallantry resulted in his second Silver Star just 2 days later. The family has the letter from the NPRC indicating they located a copy of the General Order 172 for the oak leaf cluster awarded for his heroism on May 28, 1944. For Staff Sergeant, then Sergeant Capelli, he apparently was given a field promotion to Staff Sergeant sometime in the process there for his gallantry. From the headquarters, 45th Infantry Division, 20 July 1944. General Order 172, award a bronze oak leaf cluster to the Silver Star Medal. Under the provisions of Army Regulation 600-45 as amended, a bronze oak leaf cluster to the Silver Star Medal is awarded to the following individual: Mike Capelli, Infantry, Staff Sergeant, Company I, 180th Infantry Regiment, for gallantry in action on May 28, 1944, near Aprilio, Italy. The account of his second heroic action is best described by the men who were there with him. Mike saw his platoon pinned down by a German machine gun at Profetti Creek near Aprilio, Italy. Leading one of the assault squads, he ordered his squad to lay down a base of fire and then crawled towards the gun, which lay directly in his zone of advance. After crawling 75 yards, he rose and charged the machine gun nest. With bayonet and hand grenades, he killed the 4-man crew and disabled the machine gun. His platoon then moved on. 2 Silver Stars in 2 days. 1 Silver Star is rare. 2 is exceptional. How exceptional would it be to have 2 Silver Stars in 2 days? 2 acts of gallantry against German machine guns, enabling his squad to complete their objectives. 2 Silver Star commendations presented on the same day, 20 July 1944, for gallantry on 26 May and again on 28 May. Unfortunately, we do not have the citation that would have accompanied Tech Sergeant Capelli's Bronze Star for heroism in battle, and we don't have that Bronze Star available right now. We're urging if any of the family might know where that is, if they happen to have it and don't know what you've got, we'd like to have that. We don't know, and we will not speculate when he earned the Bronze Star. How did it fall in relation to the 2 Silver Stars? Sometimes the greatest compliment to an outfit comes from your foes. So it was with the Capelli's 45th Infantry Division. He was critiqued by a captured German general, captured in France around January the 6th, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, 1945, This general had commanded the German troops that were attacking the Beach Bulge earlier on January 3rd. When he learned that the 45th Infantry Division was headed his way again, he told his interrogators, "The 45th Infantry Division beats any outfit I have ever seen." We did not expect them to show up in front of our attack. We thought we were getting around them by going through to the west. And when we got down close to the Moder, there the 45th was attacking us. The 45th met our attacks, not with counterattacks, but with attacks. In fact, we were never able to get a big attack going after we met the 45th in Wildenguth, Wingen, and Reipertsweiler. We were kept off balance all the time. Continuing that story from the story of the 180th Regiment. At 0800, January 8th, the 1st Battalion again attempted to drive the Germans from the high ground north of the road north of Wildenguth. Early in the morning, Company I, including the 45th Infantry Division, which was already north of the road, attacked due west in an attempt to divert the German fire from the 1st Battalion. At 0835, a screaming, shouting, fanatic band of SS troops launched a heavy attack with a reinforced company against the already thinly held position of Company I, which was greatly reduced in strength and covering in front of several hundred yards wider than was ever contemplated for a full-strength company to defend, as writers of the old infantry manuals of Fort Benning prescribe how to launch an attack. The instant the attack went west, the ever-alert Technical Sergeant Mike Capelli rushed forward, organizing his men to cope with it. Mike, hopelessly surrounded, was shot and killed by the bullets of a German machine pistol. The unbelievable had happened. The great Mike lay mortally wounded on the field of battle. Mike never put on a show, never fought for publicity. As his nephew Charlie said, Uncle Mike would not want this recognition today. He would probably be upset with what we're doing for him, but he deserves it for his heroism, sacrifice, and service for his country. Mike's tour of duty included Anzio, Sicily, Italy, Germany, and France. During that time, he was wounded numerous times and received 3 medals for bravery and heroism, including the 2 Silver Stars, the Bronze Star, and his 3 Purple Hearts for wounds. In the history of the 180th Regiment, George Fisher states, "The name Mike Capelli is a magic one when mentioned around the old-timers of Company I. Many times, long after the brave boy of Italian descent had fallen under the snows of the Alsatian mountains, conversations in the 3rd Battalion would stray back to the deeds of the great Mike. Mike Capelli of Anzio, Mike Capelli of the Riviera invasion, and Mike Capelli of Vosges. When Mike was killed, his runner cried tears of grief. Mike was the ideal and had been one of the imperishable to many men of Company I. Mike Capelli truly represents the epitome of what induction into the Cambria County Hall of Fame represents." Before I close, I want to tell you a brief thing, another important piece. In addition to the 3 military awards and the citations for bravery, his 3 Purple Hearts, and today's induction into the Military Hall of Fame, thanks to the efforts of his nephew Charlie Merlot, Representative Frank Burns sponsored a recommendation for a bridge dedication under Pennsylvania Senate Bill 894. On June 30th, Governor Wolf signed the bill approving the bridge dedication to Mike Capelli, and it became law under Act 64. The bridge to be named for Mike is the Deshong Mountain Bridge over Route 22. We don't have a date for the dedication, but we understand it's planning for sometime in September, is what we've heard from Representative Burns' office. Mike truly was a part of the greatest generation, and he clearly demonstrates the sacrifice our veterans have made for the many freedoms we enjoy today. Mike is buried under a white stone cross in the Epinal American Cemetery and Memorial in Epinal, France. His son Joe told me recently that when he was in the service, he was stationed in Europe. I probably walked some of the same ground where my father served. I was in Epinal, France, but at the time, I didn't know Dad was buried there. I would have visited his grave. And I want to thank Mike's family, provided the information about Mike's journey through the Army. Nephew Charlie Merlot spent hours with me and shared materials, helped review, helped edit my presentation, gave me some tips and some ideas, and I hope we've done him justice today. Son Joe Lesniak also shared some additional information articles, as well as his cousin David Cavolo, who shared the medals, the letters, and notes from Mike. Hopefully someday soon, someone will find the Bronze Star Medal for heroism and sacrifice in the face of the enemy. Someone from the family may not realize they have this valuable piece of hardware. We welcome Mike's family, who are here to honor his legacy, his patriotic service to his country, and his ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms as citizens of the USA. Charlie and Joe.
This was entirely unplanned. Marty and Marlon never told me we had to say something after the inductions. But I just have a note that wasn't mentioned here. Puts the whole thing in perspective, I think. Audie Murphy was the most decorated veteran in World War II. I think he had 28 medals to his credit, which is tremendous amount. Audie Murphy had 2 silver stars. My Uncle Mike had 2 silver stars. Audie Murphy had 2 bronze stars. My Uncle Mike had 1 bronze star. Audie Murphy had 3 Purple Hearts. My Uncle Mike had 3, and possibly, as Marlon said, 4 Purple Hearts. So it goes to show what dedication the veterans of this country have given to our freedom, of which we heard today. That's it.
Thank you. Our next inductee will be for Lieutenant Vincent Opsitnik, and it'll be done by Josh Hauser, a Marine Corps veteran who 2 tours in Iraq. Josh?
Good afternoon, everybody. Everybody's got to adjust this thing. I talk loud anyway. Okay. It is always such an honor whenever we do anything like this. And Marty, thank you so much for inviting me to be an inductee. I grew up in Mineral Point. Both of my grandfathers were World War II vets. And them and all their friends and everybody just seemed like giants and heroes to me. And I'm always kind of amazed whenever we do an event like this. And here I am in my head, I'm still this little kid, but I'm all grown up and I get to honor all of these folks. And that is an incredible feeling. I'm incredibly proud of our veterans in this community. And I don't think until I left the area, I realized just how many people that we have in relation to our population that have gone on to serve and serve in so many capacities. And it's just an honor to be from here. I'm very proud of Cambria County and all of all the folks that are getting inducted today. And Ambassador Opsitnik and his wife Anne Marie, I just want to welcome you back to Cambria County. Welcome to Johnstown. It is such a pleasure to have you guys here. over the past few months, just in brief conversations that I've had with the ambassador to get in preparation for today's ceremony, learn a little bit about his story. And like so many of our veterans, his story's full of these great details that you wouldn't otherwise think of until you have that conversation. And I want to share what they get. For instance, Lieutenant Obsitnik was in the Navy, but he's prone to seasickness. But he chose the Navy. And, as he puts it, for him it was just a challenge, and it was a state of mind that he had to overcome. And I really think that you've probably had that attitude your whole life, sir, and just a matter of, okay, whatever's coming at me, it's a challenge, we'll tackle it and face it head on. But I think you're the first person I ever met that just said the seasickness was a state of mind, and that's it, I was done with it at some point. So that's excellent. Back in 1959, that's when then Ensign Obsitnik was a brand new graduate of the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis. And of all the options that he had for serving in the Navy, he chose the U.S. Submarine Force. Now, I certainly no expert. I've only been on ship a few days at a time or things like that. But being on a submarine is very different than being on a ship. And I think there's probably a lot of people that, if they're claustrophobic, they're not even going anywhere near a submarine. So, that's just another challenge in itself. And I really want to relay one story that you shared with me, which is just a great sea story in general. It might be especially terrifying for anybody that's claustrophobic or afraid of water in general. So, and his boat was out to sea, and you were up in the conning tower. While he was up there, the captain gave the order that, hey, submarines, we're going to submerge. It's going to dive. So he and another sailor start going through the procedure of, okay, let's get down, below deck and close the hatch. While Lieutenant Obsitnik, relies on this sailor to make sure the hatch is secure, he's also a good officer, and he looks over his shoulder to make sure that hatch is indeed secure. But all he sees is daylight. And the submarine is, thankfully you did look up there. And again, I'm no submarine expert, but I don't think you can stop those from diving just like that, correct, sir? So it's gonna take a minute. And, you don't have to be an expert to know that an open hatch on a submarine is a big problem. Now, on a boat though, okay, so the situation was messaged down to the captain, and you can imagine the situation the captain is in. He's got a boat and he's got a crew, and he's got two of his crew members up in the conning tower. There's another hatch below those two. And the captain makes the decision that we're sealing the main hull, and the lieutenant and another sailor, they're just going to have to figure this out. Now, you can see, thankfully, that they eventually did figure this out. This would be a very different conversation. But I think the best part of it is after this situation was resolved, Lieutenant Obsitnik is soaking wet in seawater, probably a little bit shaken. He gets back to his quarters, and a corpsman comes to see him. The corpsman says, "Captain wants me to check on you, make sure you're okay, sir." Looks him over. Physically, he's okay. And he says, "Sir, Captain wants me to give you something else." And he hands him a bottle of whiskey. That probably helped ease it a little bit, and I think the captain kind of felt like, well, I should probably give him a peace offering, even though he's probably following procedure. But these are the types of, I don't want to say every day, because everybody's situation in the military is always so different, but like these are the things that happen when you're in uniform and you serve, and you never know what's coming next, no matter what situation that you're in. Service can be dangerous. We do a lot of dangerous things, and I think as we discussed over our Zoom meeting, that just when you're young and you're full of that courage, full of the courage prior to the whiskey, You accomplish these great things, but it just seems like nothing. These are those stories that we gather while we're in the service. But after the Navy, he went on to a successful decades-long career in the tech industry. And what he did there was he helped teams that were developing what would become the modern-day electronic sonar equipment. And this was a very confusing part for me in the tech industry itself. And Ambassador Msitnik, he was around the world with marketing for this. Is that right, sir, with IBM and everything? So I will let him make comments on that part of it. But he did this for decades, and again, helping his fellow sailors because they completely came up with this new technology that was going to be used in the U.S. submarine force. Eventually, in 2007, he was called upon by President Bush to serve as a U.S. ambassador. Although he grew up in Naniglo as a child, he was actually born in Slovakia, and as chance would have it, that's where he would serve as ambassador. Now, I didn't know anything about the appointment of ambassadors and how that worked, and he assured me that it was just pure luck that a position had opened up in Slovakia. He was assigned, or he was going through school to be an ambassador, and he was assigned to another country, and it just happened to change, and they called and asked him if he wouldn't mind returning to Slovakia. While there, he had the opportunity to visit much of the country, including his hometown, but also the hometown of, or to include the town of Yarabina, where, as many of you may know, Iwo Jima flag raiser Sergeant Michael Strank is from, and a fellow Cambria County veteran. And the thing that I loved is you took along your Marines. So if anybody doesn't know, Marine security guards, they guard the embassies around the world. So you always have a team of Marines. That's a security detail. And I could only imagine how happy those Marines must have been knowing that they were going up to Sergeant Strank's hometown. Because any of my fellow Marines in the audience, there's just something about our flag raisers and how we revere them and all of our heroes. But it would be an incredible honor as a Marine to know that you're going to Sergeant Strank's hometown. I was relaying to the ambassador and his wife that the inclined plane over here is about 500 feet above the city of Johnstown. It just so happens that Mount Suribachi is 500 feet from sea level on Iwo Jima. So a lot of times if you look up there and you see that flag, you can imagine that on Iwo Jima when Sergeant Strank was raising that flag above Suribachi, you could imagine the Marines being in Johnstown, and that's what they were looking up at. But on top of all of this and all the things that he's accomplished, you just keep racking it up, sir. He's at 83 years old, an avid runner. And because he was an ambassador, he has been named the Ambassador of Fitness by the National Senior Games Association. And I can assure you, you run more than I do. I'm not. So he and his wife, Anne Marie, are celebrating 60 years of marriage this year. They have 4 sons, 2 of which are also U.S. Naval Academy graduates and followed in their father's footsteps and served aboard submarines as well. Did you tell them that story before they joined or after? Okay. Another is a veterinary doctor, and yet another works in the high-tech industry. And I just want to say, Ambassador, on behalf of Cambria County, we just want to extend our thanks for your incredible life of service. As I mentioned, we're so proud of so many who have gone on to do great things and served in so many capacities. But we know you represented Cambria County throughout your career, but what an honor to be able to represent our entire nation to another country. It is an honor to induct you into the Cambria County Military Hall of Fame. Thank you, sir.
Josh, I want to know, did my wife give you my speech? Thank you very much for those nice comments. He's a good listener. All the discussions we had, I give him maybe not an A plus, but an A on that report. There are a few things weren't exactly correct, but I'll set that straight. Marty, I want to thank you and the Veterans Committee of the War Memorial Authority for this very distinct honor of being inducted here today into the Cambria County Military Hall of Fame. It's truly an impressive facility. We've toured the museum when we were here, and I looked around these plaques and I say, man, these people really are patriotic. They really love their veterans. They love their service. They love their country. So I really am happy to be here, and I compliment you for everything you're doing. The list of prior inductees that you have, the 56, is quite impressive and awesome, and I'm not sure I measure up to all that, but that everything that they've done. However, I have served our country, and I'm proud of that throughout my lifetime, and very much appreciate this recognition. Command Sergeant Fisher, congratulations to you on everything you've done in your career. The only thing you haven't done, you haven't been married long enough yet, only 54 years.
We'll talk about that later.
But you did have a significant service in the Army and in the Pennsylvania National Guard, and that's really very complimentary. We also owe a debt of gratitude to the 3 inductees who are not with us today and are no longer living with us, but Lieutenant Clausen, Sergeant Capelli, Harry Robb, who we'll hear about next, and they've all served with great valor and commitment, and it was impressive to hear their stories. In addition to everyone's service and accomplishments, what is strikingly significant is that we and the 56 who came before us all came from Cambria County. This is incredible when you think about this whole country, and this little Cambria County has produced all these heroes in the past, and I think will in the future as well. I arrived here with my parents in 1938. I was 2 months old. We just immigrated from Slovakia, came to Naniglo. The only reason we came to Naniglo is because my mother's sister was in lived in Naniglo with her family, and they wanted to live close together. My father was a coal miner, and my mother took care of the home and the boarders who lived with us. And as you all know the history of mining and miners and boarders, women had a tough job back in those days taking care of all those people. The many years I lived in Naniglo were very formative for me, and they planted the seeds of loyalty and service to this country, and I'll explain to you why. Excuse my voice today. For some reason, it's a little off, a little hoarse, and if you need me to speak louder, please raise your hand. The Second World War and its impact on Naniglo and its residents are still in my mind today. I have a good memory. I remember it all as a little kid. The service flags hanging in the people's windows with the star on it showing that they had someone serving in the war. And some of those flags had a gold star showing that a family member was killed in action. I can still see those flags in windows today. I also remember going to a family's home, friends of ours, and seeing their son lying in his uniform in the casket in the living room, and we had the funeral service there. Those are impressions that are significant for a young kid. They were sad moments, but they show the patriotism of Naniglo was strong. Our sons sacrificed themselves there for our freedom, and I think all the residents appreciated that. I was also touched by the fact as a young kid that 3 of my cousins, John, Joe, and Mike Soika, all from Naniglo, were away serving in the war also. Thank the Lord, they all returned to Nantiglow. And today, Mike's son, Brian, is with us today. Brian, thank you very much. His father was a tail gunner on a B-24, I believe. And he never talked about it very much, but he did let us know that. On a very happy note, VE and VJ days came around finally, and the war was over. As a 7-year-old, I remember the victory parade in Nantiglow. I don't know if any of you remember that parade. The parade down the main street of Nantiglow came the tanks. Actually had tanks come down. The trucks came through, and the soldiers marched, and the bands played. We had won the war, and they were back. And at the head of that parade was my neighbor, Mike Mahanick, leading the parade, but leading it with only one arm. He went on to become the mayor of Nantiglow. I mentioned that's the Nantiglow contingent that's here today, and he was our neighbor. Those boyhood experiences, whether you believe it or not, really impressed on me a desire to serve this country and a connection with this country. As I was finishing high school, the Korean War was ongoing. If you remember that, in the newspapers every day you hear, oh, the line went this way, and it went this way and that way. It was a terrible war. It was a tough war. But, you know, it impressed on me the fact that this country is still at war and still fighting, and we still have to defend ourselves and democracy around the world. As I was finishing high school, I finally decided I wanted to go to West Point, because I was impressed with all the tank histories I'd heard about. I never thought of Annapolis. I've been to Annapolis, never thought of going there, but West Point sounded good. But the appointment came for Annapolis, and so off we went to the Navy. I didn't know how to swim. I never been on a boat before, but I was going to go serve in the U.S. Navy. And I had to learn to swim at the Naval Academy. Actually, I was playing soccer on their soccer team, and I got a note that said, Midshipman Upsitnik, you have to report for swimming lessons. So I had to leave the soccer team for about 3 weeks until I took swimming lessons to learn how to swim, and you had to pass a test. You had to swim across the pool and back. And I was determined to pass this test, so I started swimming, took one deep breath, and didn't breathe again until it was finished. So, but they passed me. They thought I was a swimmer. We were doing things, then I joined the submarine force, I guess was the next milestone in my life. It was especially satisfying. But the submarine force was doing things for this country you didn't know about. It was truly the silent service. We didn't talk about it. That term came up in the Second World War because people were talking a little bit about the submarine torpedoes and stuff. The Japanese heard about it, and as a result, many of our submarines were sunk. So from that point on, they put a strict silence on the submarine force to this day. But during that time, it was the Cold War. And if you remember, in 1962, October, something happened. We were on deployment on my submarine, the Blenny, in the Mediterranean. We had been there 4 months. We came home. We were coming home. We were halfway across the Atlantic and received a message to say, stop, stay where you are, and prepare for war. It was the Cuban Missile Crisis. We were in the middle Atlantic where the Russian ships were going, carrying the missiles to Cuba. And had we gone to war, I guess our job was to sink those ships. So because of that, we had to put our torpedoes into the tubes. Normally in a submarine, unless you're at war, those torpedoes are not in the tubes because they don't want to risk a mistaken firing of some kind. So we had to put all those torpedoes in the tubes. One of the problems we had was 2 of the tubes were filled with all the liquor we bought in France. Prices were cheap in France, liquor was good, wine was good, so we bought a lot of it. So we had to shoot them all out into the Atlantic. So if you're a deep diver, you want to go and find it, you can go try. But they're all there, and we made room for the torpedoes, and we got ready. But as you know, the crisis was over. So once it was over, torpedoes came back out of the tubes, and we started heading for home again. But the liquor was gone. On the submarine story, Josh gave you a pretty good summary. There's little technical errors he has there. I was not on the conning tower of the submarine. I was up on the bridge, and the captain called up, take her down. Well, so when you do that, the two lookouts behind you go down through the hatch into the conning tower, which he mentioned, and I went after him, and then the diving officer is supposed to grab the lanyard of the latch and pull it after him and close the hatch and hold it, and then the quartermaster jumps up there and dogs it. Dogs it means he closes it. Well, he dogs it, and he said, hatch secure, sir. Now in submarines, everything is by automatic, because we're trained to do everything, and everything's instinct. You don't think, you just do. So he said, hatch secure, sir. I let go of the lanyard because I'm going down through the conning into the control room to take control of the dive, and I hear boom. I look up, and then I saw that daylight that Josh talked about. I jumped up on the ladder. I'm pulling down in that hatch. I'm trying to turn the hatch to dog. It wouldn't lock. The quartermaster jumps up along. So meantime, water's pouring in, and by instinct, I yell down, flooding in a conning tower. That's what every submarine is supposed to do when there's flooding in a conning. Water coming, flooding, and at that point in time, they automatically shut the hatch. It wasn't a captain's order. He wasn't that mean, but the people will automatically shut the hatch because you have to save 86 people for the 4 you leave in the hatch. That's the way it is. Anyway, in the meantime, we're trying to close the hatch. It's not closing. Water's coming in. We're going down. We must have got down about 50 or 60 feet, I think, and then I yelled over, sound the surfacing alarm. I don't know why they didn't do it themselves so they sound the surfacing alarm. As soon as the submarine heard that, all the valves on the main ballast tanks got shut, and they do it hydraulically. They blew high pressure air into the tanks. You could feel the submarine shudder, and then the water starts coming out. We came back up on top. So. And then captain set up a replacement for me since I was all wet. And I went down in my stateroom. Another thing Josh didn't say exactly was I wasn't anxious. I was relaxed. There was just no problem. As you're a young guy, you're relaxed. I was just changing my clothes. And the corpsman did bring me some whiskey, but it was a small bottle, not a big. It was medicinal whiskey. And it really helped the nap I took. Okay, so that's the submarine story. But we weren't at war during the Cold War, but we were at war. It was the Cold War, and I give tribute to everyone that served in that Cold War because you know why? They never put in the papers. We won. We won the Cold War. The communists were beaten. They gave up, and we see what happened after that. But we won that war, and everyone served in that war. I think has to be given a tribute for that. And the submarine force in general is a separate, it's a unique kind of force. We don't talk about it much for obvious reasons. But every time every submarine in this in our Navy submarine force goes down, they all have that risk I just talked about water coming in. So luckily we haven't lost too many. We lost 2 nuclear attack subs in our modern era, and unfortunately in the Second World War, many guys were sunk in that conflict. Well, let me turn to something else more pleasant. My wife Anne Marie was with me during those Navy years. She was a student over at Connecticut College for Women across the river from New London Submarine Base. The mission of the Connecticut College for Women is to supply wives to submarine officers. So it worked out in our case very well. And 2 of our sons were born in a naval hospital in Groton, Connecticut. The second one, I was there for the first one. The second one she handled on her own because I was out at sea in the submarine. She's been a great partner, sacrificed so much so that I could serve. And this year will be our 60th wedding anniversary. And I'd like to acknowledge her service and recognize her and thank her for everything that she's done. Leaving the Navy after 9 years, I did join IBM because I wanted to be involved in the computer industry and actually serve the country, but in a different way. I joined that Federal Systems Division of IBM, which Josh talked about. At that time, the Russian subs were getting quieter and quieter. I had Navy backgrounds with IBM, and I decided that it'd be nice if we could get IBM to build one of these brand new sonar systems for our submarines, because we needed high technology, we needed to be all digital, and the Navy was building a brand new submarine called the 688 class, and so we competed for that, and we won the contract, and we ended up developing a very successful digital sonar system that went into all the 688 class submarines. It's called the BQQ-5, and the BQQ-6 went on all the Fleet ballistic missile submarines. We went on also to build a standard signal processor for all the Navy aircraft that were processing, acoustic signals. So that was another way of serving this country, is making sure that our armed forces had the equipment they need to do their career, to do their job. With my industrial career coming to an end after about 30 years, I became involved with the Republican Party in 2000. And people always ask, how'd you become an ambassador? And believe me, it's not how much money you give them. It's not how much money you raise. It's not it's a little bit of that. You have to be a member of the team. You have to do something. I remember in 2001, I had a interview with someone in, boy, have the water, please. Thank you. My wife always knows what I need. But I think the reason I became an ambassador is because the Lord wanted me to. The 3 miracles took place that for which I make that statement. I wanted to serve. I got involved in 2000. I wanted to serve in the administration somehow. Someone lined me up with an interview in the White House. And I said to him, I can become an ambassador. I had international experience. I was born in Slovakia, speak the language. Also a lot of big industrial experience. And he said, what'd you do politically? Well, I had a big blank look on my face. Did nothing. I wasn't part of the team. But then he said, miracle number 1, we could probably use you on a U.S. commission we have called the U.S. Commission for the Preservation of America's Heritage Abroad. Was to be involved with foreign governments to protect the heritage that all of us have that's over there. And that got started really by the Jewish community in the 1980s, because the communists were desecrating synagogues, they're desecrating cemeteries. A law got passed, set up this commission. When this commission, we can go and have official meetings with governments and for them to do things, etc. Well, I decided to get involved with Slovakia and help them restore the 17th century wooden log churches that they have. There's only 30 of them left. And we actually restored 2 of those churches. So I got involved. Wow. Must be the Pennsylvania air. We restored 2 of those churches. I was in the party. They knew me by this time, knew who I was. But there's hundreds of other people that want to serve as well. But in 2007, I was first asked to be the U.S. ambassador to Slovenia. Any Slovenians here? Background? No. Yeah, there you go. Slovenia is a Slavic country, but it's part of the old Yugoslavia. And we said, why not? Let's go. I mean, even though it's not Slovakia. And of course, Washington always jokes. People started joking, well, President Bush doesn't know how to spell correctly. You from Slovakia, you got the spelling wrong. It was really Slovenia. So we went to Washington, went to this little 2-week ambassador orientation, they call it a school. And I got another phone call. So Slovenia was miracle number 2, just to be asked to be an ambassador. Miracle number 3, phone call comes from the White House. Our ambassador in Slovakia decided he wants to come home early, and if you want, the president will change your nomination to Slovakia. There you go. So I went to Slovakia. They knew I was born there, spoke the language, it made sense, and we went. It was probably the ultimate service experience in my life to represent this country overseas to another country. A very touching moment for me in going over there was when I went to the presidential palace to present my credentials to their president. And we got there, our motorcade pulled up to the palace, we got out, and there was this big honor guard standing out there, and big band standing there. People greeted us. We turned around then, looked at the band and the honor guard, and they played the Star Spangled Banner. What a beautiful sound that was, to stand there and hear our national anthem being played. And I'm looking at it, and it was a touching moment for me. And I have it on video, by the way, if anybody wants to see it. So, and during my service there, well, there are some very positive things we did. One was, you may have heard about it, the visa waiver program. We got that approved for Slovakia. That meant if you had relatives in Slovakia, they didn't have to go to the embassy in Bratislava and ask for a visa. Now they just go online, put some data in. If they're cleared, they go. And that's because of security. We made sort of security treaties with Slovakia to exchange information about threats. And once they've done all that, and met some other criteria, they qualified, and their people can now easily travel here to the United States. We also brought the Slovak president to meet President Bush to the White House in October of 2008. And then as Josh mentioned, since I knew about Michael's strength, I was determined to go visit the village he was born in, took my Marines there. And one thing he didn't tell you is I walked in the town hall of the little village, right, up in the mountains of northeastern Slovakia. Right as you walk in is a big mural on a wall, and it's the painting of the raising of the flag on Iwo Jima. This is in a Slovak town hall. So you can see with that the love they had for their native son, and the love they have for this United States of America. So in closing, though, let me just say, I want to thank you again for this recognition. I hope I've lived up to your guidelines for enshrinement. Thank you again, and I wish the Cambria County Military Hall of Fame continued further success in recognizing your sons and daughters who are giving outstanding, exceptional service to this wonderful country of ours, the United States of America, and may God bless America and keep us safe forever. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir. Our next and our last induction today is sonar technician Harry F. Robb Jr. and he will be inducted by World War II veteran Harry Munsert, distinguished naval career, and a retired Master Chief Petty Officer.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I knew Harry Robin from high school. He was in the class behind me. And I am honored today to be inducting him into the Cambria County Hall of Fame. Harry Frederick Robb Jr. was born May 9th, 1926 in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and attended school in Southmont from kindergarten to 12th grade. Upon graduation, he joined the Navy in 1944 and was assigned to a radio school along with electricians. He lettered in football, baseball, volleyball, basketball, and track at Southmont. He was an all-around good student, and when he got in the Navy, he was shipped overseas to Japan. The war had stopped there, and he was on a auxiliary minesweeper, cleaning up the harbors of Japan so that the safety of the ships could come in and take over occupation. He was discharged in 1946 in May, and he was entered into MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, in September of '46, and signed up for electrical engineering program. And he earned a Bachelor of Science degree and a Master of Science degree in electrical engineering. He spent 44 years with Westinghouse under contract to the Navy, designing nuclear reactors for the Navy submarines and ships. He began his career at Pittsburgh at Westinghouse, designing reactors for the USS Nautilus and the nation's first nuclear submarine. He also directed nuclear designs for reactors of the USS Enterprise, its first nuclear carrier, and also a commercial power plant, a reactor at Shippingport down near Pittsburgh. In 1972, Mr. Robb moved to Westinghouse office in central Crystal City in Virginia, where he worked as chief of the nuclear propulsion program until his retirement in 1995. He was a top advisor to Admiral Hyman Rickover, who was the father of the nuclear navy. He was a founding member and fellow in the American Nuclear Society and belonged to various honorary societies. He also had several patents. In addition to his professional work, Mr. Robb was a member of the Episcopal Church in the Good Shepherd in Berkey, where he was a senior warden, a committee member, Sunday school leader, a lay counselor, and a lay minister. He had a monthly worship service for learning disabled people in Northern Virginia training camp for 25 years. He also served as treasurer for the center's Religious Advisory Board. Since 1995, he had spent 2 days a week as a lay chaplain in the pediatric intensive care and oncology units at Havana Fairfax Hospital. He had more than 2,500 hours of volunteer service in the hospital. Harry Robb, at 81, who was chief physicist for the Navy's nuclear propulsion program, died February 16th in 2008. and he's survived by his son, Harry Robb III, his daughter, Constance Robb of Silver Springs, and Cynthia Robb of Morgenthaler, Denver, Colorado. I'd like to have Harry Robb III come forward to accept his awards. This plaque is located at the number 22 in the concourse. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much, Harry. I just wanted to say my dad was very proud of being from Johnstown and never stopped talking about it. And he was also he was going to go into an electrical engineering conventional career. He got this opportunity to work in the nuclear program. It must have been, it was 1950 or something. So I think he was there at the very beginning working with Admiral Rickover, and was always, was tremendously proud of that. And he was proud of being part of a cutting edge technology that helped win the Cold War. And I just want to say he went to 1st through 12th grade at Southmont High School, or I guess it was Southmont School here, and which is now closed. But he said that the education he got there helped prepare him for this technical field that he was going into. So, thank you all very much.
Congratulations on behalf of the Senate of Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much. As mentioned by some of the inductors, in the seating, going into the seating areas of the arena, there will be larger plaques of each, not only of these 5, but of the other 56, which you can be easily read. And I'll just say them again for family members especially. For Lieutenant Clausen, it's Area 2. For Command Sergeant Peischer, it's Area 1. For Tech Sergeant Mike Capelli, Area 2. Lieutenant Vincent Sitnick, Area 3. And Sonar Technician Harry Robb Jr., Area 22, which is just right here. So with that, please, and you'll see some of the plaques, and they really go around the entire arena of the other 56. Also, what we have is a seat plaque on our on the seating areas in your memory, or excuse me, in your honor, excuse me. And with that, I want to bring up Warren McKinney, Persian Gulf veteran, and he's our coordinator of the seat plaque program, and part of that's in your brochure there, your program, and he can tell you where those seat plaques are. Warren?
I'd like to start by saying the War Memorial Veterans Committee is proud and honored to have these 5 individuals back into our Hall of Fame. The seat plaques are in section 22, which is around the corner here. In row H, the Army Tech Sergeant Michael Capelli is in seat 9. First Lieutenant Paul Clausen, seat 10. Navy Lieutenant Vincent Obsitnik is seat 11. Command Sergeant Major Peischer, seat 12. And Harry S. Robb is in seat 13. So you're welcome to go up and look at it. And also, when the museum is open, if you want to care to go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please stand. We will bring back Diane DeLisa. She will lead us, and I say lead us, in our rendition we should record of God Bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
If you would remain standing, we will have the color guards leaving, and also 3 volleys, and then we will be followed by taps. Please take your seats. The firing squad of 3 volleys was by VFW Post 155, and taps was played by Walt McClellan of the Conemaugh Valley Vets and Joe Babick of the Marine Corps League. So with that, if you would, in your program, it has some thank yous. So as you can imagine, anytime you put on a program, a lot of people come forth, and certainly we want to acknowledge them. We won't read them, but I think it's important for you to know, such as the arena itself, and also the refreshments, which will be in the concourse right behind me, is donated by the Holiday Inn down the street. And with that, we, more than anything, we thank you. We thank you for attending. I think by your presence alone, you understand what these 5 inductees mean, not only to Cambria County, but much more important to our country. And with that in mind, I thank you so much for attending, and I ask that you socialize and have some coffee, some pastry, and so on and so forth. And thank you again. Appreciate it. Thank you.